Watch Bison Information Network News Saturday and Sunday on Cable One Channel 70. This student-run weekly newscast covers relevant news and current events, entertainment, Bison sports, and more. Watch BIN News Fridays at 9 p.m., Saturdays at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., and Sundays at 9 a.m. on Cable One Channel 70.
Bison Information Network News is brought to you in partnership with Cable One.
Good evening and welcome to Bison Information Network News. I am Tristan Dakota.
And I'm Lydia Crackle. William Hane's attorney, Daniel Borgen, announced on Tuesday that Hane will be appealing the life sentence he was given on Monday for his role in kidnapping Savannah LaFontaine Graywin's baby.
Borgen's statement said that Hane will be appealing the sentence to the North Dakota Supreme Court. Hane pleaded guilty to a felony charge, kidnapping, and a misdemeanor count of lying to police in September, but was acquitted on a charge of conspiracy to commit murder. The charges Hane pleaded guilty to initially carried a maximum sentence of 21 years in prison, but the judge ruled Hane as a dangerous offender, which raised the maximum sentence to life in prison, which he was sentenced to on Monday. Regardless of the outcome of the appeal, Hane will be eligible for parole in 25 to 30 years.
A Fargo woman has been charged in a child neglect case that ended on Wednesday. Clara Nisco was found guilty of leaving her child in a hot car while shopping at Walmart in September. According to surveillance footage, Nisco was seen entering the store at 4:14 p.m. and returning to her vehicle 23 minutes later, as temps reached nearly 85 degrees outside. Witnesses told police they heard a baby crying from a nearby vehicle and reached in to grab the child through the vehicle's open window. Nisco has been charged with child neglect, a Class C felony, which is punishable of up to 5 years in prison.
A man from Fingal, North Dakota was arrested in Fargo Wednesday evening. Michael Ott, wanted in Barnes County, faces a number of drug-related charges. Ott's possible charge include possession of drugs and drug paraphernalia after a police search in his home in September. During the search, police also found a number of stolen items. Travis Fagan of Lisbon has also been charged in relation to this case. Ransom County Sheriff's Office assisted the Fargo Police Department in this arrest.
Authorities have detected what they suspect to be an underwater locator beacon, or a black box, to the Lion Air Flight 610. Meanwhile, divers have brought debris and personal belongings out of the wreckage, offering mourning relatives a chance to identify the items of their loved ones. While the investigation is ongoing, radar tracking has shown that the plane had issues taking off on its way to Jakarta the night before its fatal crash. CNN's Ivan Watson reports from Jakarta.
This is what's left of Lion Air Flight 610. Shoes and backpacks, fished out of the sea, arranged for relatives of the 189 passengers and crew who were on board when the plane crashed. Epi Samsul Umar spots his 24-year-old son Mohammed's black sneaker, a heartbreaking moment of closure. Indonesian authorities say they've detected what they suspect is the underwater locator beacon for the flight data recorder, which they hope will yield information about why this brand new plane crashed into the ocean just minutes after takeoff. More than 40 ships and helicopters have been combing the Java Sea, searching for debris and the remains of victims. They're also trying to home in on the sound of the black box's beacon.
I hear the ping locator from the black box, like ding, ding, every 1 second, I think.
Authorities dispatched divers and a remote-operated submersible to depths of up to 35 meters or 100 feet. But the search complicated by conditions underwater. Data recorded by Flight Radar 24, a program that tracks commercial flights, shows Lion Air Flight 610's altitude and speed, measured here in blue and yellow, fluctuated wildly for 13 minutes until the plane smashed into the ocean.
But in this case, it appears that it was outside of the normal manual flight mode. There was something going on in that cockpit, or something that they were battling against in the autopilot system.
The night before the brand new Boeing 737's final doomed flight, the same plane flew from Bali to Jakarta. Flight data shows early in that journey, the plane plunged nearly 1,000 feet in just 30 seconds. It was a moment that panicked passengers.
Just like you were in the normal condition, and suddenly there is a big hole, a really deep hole, and you just go down.
I scream. Everybody scream, and then I just pray to God.
The deputy head of Indonesia's National Transportation Safety Committee tells CNN investigators are looking at reports that an instrument malfunctioned on the plane the night before it made its final disastrous journey. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, Lion Air announced it fired its technical director. With the mystery of what happened to Lion Air Flight 610 still unanswered, distraught families of the victims have been left sifting through the rubble. CNN, Jakarta.
And now we'll see what Jay has for us in weather. Jay?
Thanks, Lydia. Weather around the region over the past couple days has been pretty good, but things are going to start cooling down from this point on. And as we can see, starting with tomorrow, there's going to be a mix of rain and snow throughout the region on Friday and Saturday. Friday's forecast starting is going to be a high of 41, but that low of 33 is where we start to see the danger come in. That rain is going to fall regardless, but snow could be mixed in there depending on how low it gets. But precipitation is sitting at 40%, humidity is at 83%, and so we are going to be seeing precipitation tomorrow. And by taking a look at our 7-day forecast, we can see that this continues on Saturday with sort of the same climate being present on that day. So across the weekend, it's going to be rainy and potentially snowy for us. There's a brief bit of reprieve on Sunday and Monday as weather heats up just a little bit and we get 2 partly cloudy days. But once we get later into next week, we can see that Tuesday will be rainy, and then on Wednesday, we finally hit the cold front with snow hitting the region finally, and weather's hitting a cool level that will stay that way likely through the rest of the season. Back to Lydia and Tristan at the desk.
Thanks, Jay. After the break, we take a look at early voting counts in Cass County.
And if passed, what Measure 3 could mean for North Dakotans when we come back.
Early voting began earlier this week, and the polls at the Fargo Dome have seen thousands of people so far. Early voting is a perfect option for those who want to avoid long lines or bad weather on Election Day, November 6th. According to election judges, early voting works similar to Election Day. Residents bring their valid ID, cast their ballot, and receive an I voted sticker. Looking at numbers from recent years, about 40% of Cass County residents either vote early at the polls or by absentee. If you'd like to take advantage of early voting, you may do so from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. until Friday, November 2nd at one of 4 locations in Fargo: the Ramada Inn, Doubletree by Hilton, the Fargo Dome, or Days Inn Hotel.
Recreational marijuana legalization could soon become a law in North Dakota. VIN News reporter Noah Smith has more on Measure 3 and what it could mean for North Dakotans.
On November 6th, North Dakotans, much like the rest of the country, will be heading to the polls. But, unlike most states, the measure to legalize recreational marijuana will be on North Dakota's ballot.
It's a great idea. And furthermore, I will not only go on to say that legalizing is a great idea, prohibiting marijuana in the first place and making it illegal was a horrendously bad idea.
In 2016, North Dakota passed a measure which allowed medicinal marijuana usage. Still, there are opponents to legalization, as that measure was delayed implementation of 7 months.
A lot of the reason why it came about is because people were angry about the medicinal marijuana bill that had been passed previously, and they were using this as a way to address that.
According to the North Dakota Constitution, measures will be put into effect 30 days after passing. This means that if the measure is passed, recreational marijuana could be legalized on December 6th of this year, raising the concern of opponents to the bill.
Employees have to have stricter regulations on terms of how to drug test and how to deal with this new drug that is out there.
Separate from productivity problems, supporters of the measure state that legalization will reduce spending on arrests, allow hemp sales, and lower opioid overdoses, offering very little in terms of cons.
We may face a Doritos crisis.
All jokes aside, the measure, if passed, would allow the recreational use of marijuana to anyone over the age of 21. Noah Smith, BIN News.
To find your polling place, visit vote.nd.gov. Official voting ends on November 6th, so make sure you get out there and vote.
Although many have chosen to vote early in the Red River Valley, some students are preparing to vote November 6th, Election Day.
BIN News reporter Isaac Deason asked NESU students whether or not they're voting in this week's Bison on the Street.
Yes, and because I think my opinion matters, and yeah.
Yes, I'll be voting, and I'll be voting because in North Korea, people want to vote and they cannot vote, but in America, like, you have the ability to vote.
I definitely will be, because who we put in office, they can affect our daily lives, the future of our state. It's something every North Dakota resident has an obligation to take part in.
Yes, because it's important.
West Acres have revealed a multi-million-dollar development project that will fill the current vacant 30,000 square feet of space next to Best Buy. Announced on Tuesday, the West Acres district will feature a variety of restaurants and experiences, most of which have not yet to be announced. A restaurant that has been announced for the district is Crave, American Kitchen and Sushi Bar, a Minnesota-based restaurant with other locations in Iowa and South Dakota. This will be the first Crave restaurant in North Dakota. The expansion is West Acres' largest since 2001, when it added the food court. Coming up, what the North Dakota DOT is doing to reduce the number of fatal crashes.
And a parking update for students who live near campus.
The North Dakota Department of Transportation imagines a day when the number of highway fatalities is 0. Looking to accomplish this goal, the North Dakota DOT is partnering with Vision Zero, a multinational road traffic safety project with the same goal. Operating on a 5-year plan, Vision Zero brings engineering, education, enforcement, and emergency medical services into the mix, hoping to decrease road deaths to 75 annually by 2025. According to the DOT's Safety Division Director, North Dakota saw 116 road deaths in 2017, and so far this year we're at 87. For more information on this initiative, visit visionzero.nd.gov.
The Fargo Police Department wants to remind students to be aware of the seasonal night parking signs near campus. Limited parking begins today, and alternate restrictions for streets and avenues every other morning. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday mornings, students will not be able to park their vehicles on avenues which run east to west. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, parking will be restricted on streets which run north to south. The restricted times listed on the signs are from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. This season parking change gives city employees room to adequately plow Fargo roads once snow begins to fly.
It's 2018, and Michael Myers is once again smashing the competition at the box office. And extreme haunts where scare actors are allowed to grab or even restrain visitors who sign a waiver are growing in popularity. If you took part in any scary activities leading up to Halloween, a new study in the journal Emotion shows us that there's an upside to venturing into the dark side. Jeremy Roth has more in today's Health Minute.
Fear is often a toxic force in society, but I personally have always really enjoyed doing scary things.
Margie Kerr is a sociologist who studies fear.
I wanted to understand why we would want to engage with something that's largely negative.
Kerr analyzed people's responses before and after walking through Scare House, an extreme haunt in Pennsylvania. The spine-tingling experience improved moods, decreased stress, and increased confidence. While it seems unlikely, some of the benefits were similar to meditation.
These very intense emotional experiences ground us in our body and are related to decreased reactivity, checked out in a good way.
But how far is too far to go for a fright?
For fear to be fun, it does have to happen within an environment that is relatively safe.
Kerr says choice and agency make all the difference.
That people are enjoying the moment where they can have fear more in their own control.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Jeremy Rowe.
The World War I lecture series made a stop in Fargo Wednesday at the Fargo Public Library. Hosted by the North Dakota World War I Centennial Committee, the lecture tour has made its way around the state in honor of the great World War I's 100th anniversary. The series aims to educate local citizens about the war and North Dakota's participation in it. Various speakers, including professors and historians, have and will give presentations at these events, with NDSU's own professor, Tom Ishern, speaking about North Dakota's reaction to the war. The lecture series will complete its run in Bismarck on November 7th.
After the break, Eric will have our sports update.
What will you have for us, Eric?
We'll take a look at that NDSU-USD game over the weekend. We'll check in on NDSU soccer down in Brookings, where they're taking on Denver, and we'll also check in on the NDSU men's basketball team as they host Concordia tonight in an exhibition game. That and more when we come back. All the talk heading into the game against South Dakota this week was how is North Dakota State going to keep up with that up-tempo offense of the Coyotes. North Dakota State also looked out to start fast for the second consecutive week. AC Easton Stickler hoping to lead his team to another 8-0 start for the second consecutive year. Right away in the first drive, he drops back to pass and finds Ben Elfson for a 15-yard touchdown. Bison up 7-0. Ensuing drive, Easton Stick takes it himself 2 yards out. Bison are up 14-0 at that point. Later on in the first quarter, Easton Stick rolls out, finds Brock Robbins in the end zone. The Bison are up 21-0 at that point. Here you see Ty Brooks taking it to the house from 35 yards out, untouched. The Bison lead 28-7 at that point. And later on, just before the end of the half, Easton Stick rolls out to his right, finds Ben Elfson, and becomes NDSU's all-time leading touchdown passer with 40 for his career. There you see him taking another one to the house. The Bison would go on to win 59-14. Easton Stick was 12-19, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Also, Lance Dunn, 12 carries for 114 yards. North Dakota State will welcome the Penguins of Youngstown State to the Fargo Dome this weekend. Penguins are giving up 223 yards through the air and 30 points per game. The Bison have only been held under 30 points twice this season against Illinois State and South Dakota State. They will be going for their 7th straight victory against the Penguins. On the ground, the Penguins are giving up an average of 151 yards per game. Head coach Chris Kleiman knows that it's always tough to run the football against a Bo Pelini defense.
They're a really difficult team to run the football against, and that's what we need to be able to do is run the ball. If we have to throw it 40, 50 times against what they do in pass defense, it'll be a struggle for us, so we have to find a way to run the football against a Bo Pelini defense.
With a win, the Bison will clinch at least a share of their 8th straight Missouri Valley Conference championship. Record could be broken this game as Easton Stick needs 86 yards to break the Missouri Valley Conference record for rushing yards by a quarterback for their career. NDSU Volleyball traveled to Brookings, South Dakota this past weekend to take on their bitter rival South Dakota State. Bison handled the match with an ease, winning 3-1 in 4 sets. NDSU and SDSU split the first 2 sets. Then NDSU took over to win the final 2 sets, both with a score of 25-19. Alexis Bachmeyer finished with 17 kills and 20 digs, and Abby Close finished with an ace and 17 digs for the Bison. For the Jackrabbits, Mackenzie Hennon finished with 16 kills and 10 digs, and Ellie Thine had an ace and 22 digs. After hosting the Summit League soccer tournament for the past 2 seasons, the North Dakota State women's soccer team will be traveling down to Brookings, South Dakota. They received the 3 seed and are currently taking on the number 2 seed Denver. Last season, these 2 teams met with the right to go to the NCAA tournament. Pioneers went on to win the match 2-1 and received the automatic berth into the NCAA tournament when these 2 teams met this past season in Fargo. NDSU jumped out to an early 2-goal lead in the first half. However, in the second half, Denver scored 3 unanswered goals and won 3-2 in overtime. This game is currently in progress in the second half, and the Pioneers lead the Bison 2-0. And the winner of this game will move on to face Omaha, who beat South Dakota State 3-1 earlier today. Then they will play the championship game Saturday at 12 p.m. in Brookings. The 2018-2019 men's basketball season kicks off tonight at home as they host the Cobbers of Concordia Moorhead for the 7th time in the last 9 seasons. Last year, the Bison defeated the Cobbers 95-46 and have won last 7 meetings by an average of 34 points. Bison got good news this week as transfer guard Jordan Horn was officially cleared to play this season. Horn was scheduled to sit out this season due to the NCAA's transfer policy, which requires all transfers to sit out. The Bison did lose big man Jordan Meiniger for the season as he tore his ACL in practice. And currently, last check, the Bison are up 16-2 at the first media timeout. The Bison will kick off their season for the 2nd straight season on the road and out west as they will play New Mexico State on Tuesday in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Tip is scheduled for 8:30 p.m. Central. Going on to women's basketball as they were home for their first exhibition game of the season. Picking up right away in the first half, Maria Fernandez finds Emily Dietz. Bison are down 20-17 at this point. Fernandez yet again. She finds Newdell, cutting Riley Newdell. The Bison are up 1, and they would take that 1-point lead, 33-32 in the half. You see some UND fans. They're excited. Their team is in it, trailing the Bison just by 1. Fernandez yet again finds another cutting Newdell later on in the second half. That would tie the game at 62. Fernandez looks inside but fakes it out. Michelle Geislerova, she hits the deep 3 from way downtown. The tie game at 65, but however, the Bison were unable to defeat the Bulldogs as they would lose 70-65. Michelle Geislerova with 20 points, 4 rebounds. Sarah Jacobson and Riley Jacobson did not play that much this past game. Next up, the season opener, the Bison will take on Mayville State tip is scheduled for 7 p.m. at the Shack. And the FCS rankings just came out, and it's no surprise that North Dakota State is yet again number 1, and JMU is right behind them at number 2. These two teams met in Frisco last year, and we could potentially see that matchup yet again.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
And after the break, we will have another weather break.
Before we go, let's take one last look at the weather for the upcoming week. Winter is definitely approaching, as both Friday and Saturday have a possibility for a mix of snow and rain. The cooling climate will hit a climax next Wednesday with a high chance of snow and a projected low of 19 degrees Fahrenheit. Things will only continue to get colder from there, so make sure you enjoy the last few days of fall temperatures early in the next week. Thank you for watching this edition of Bison Information Network News.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter.
Catch us back here next Thursday night.
Have a great night, everyone.